Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Cassidy the Aspiring Author. I'm Cassidy. Welcome. If you're new here, nice to meet you. I'm really excited to have you. And if you have come back from my last video, it's really nice to see y'all again. Thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate it. So as the title suggests, today I will be talking about Mr. Mercedes by Stephen King. So massive spoilers for the entire video. I'm going to be talking about the back, my first impressions, detailed summary of the book, and my thoughts throughout, and my thoughts after reading it, of course. Also, lots of death, unaliving, self-unaliving, all of that. So if that's not something that interests you, or if that is something that's going to trigger you, please click off. If you haven't read the book and you would like to without any spoilers, please click off. You guys can click back on, and I'd love to hear what you thought of the book. But if you have read it, if you don't care about spoilers, or reading's just not your thing but you want to know the story, please stay and tell me what you thought in the comments below. If anyone is interested, this is the bookmark that I used while reading it. It's Full Metal Alchemist from I got it at Phoenix Fan Fusion. Once again, I unfortunately do not know who made it, but it's laminated, it's nice. This is one of my favorite animes, and so I like this one a lot. It has Ed Elric on it. And same as the last video as well. So I wrote all my notes in this notebook, so if you see me look down or off to the side, if I pause randomly, I'm so sorry. I don't have everything memorized, I don't have the entire book memorized, and I want to make sure I don't miss anything when doing summaries for you guys. So let's get started. So the back of this book, Mr. Mercedes by Stephen King, says, a stolen Mercedes emerges from the pre-dawn fog and plows through a crowd of men and women online for a job fair in distressed American city. Then the lone driver backs up, charges again, and speeds off, leaving 8 dead and more wounded. The case goes unsolved, and retired detective Bill Hodges is out of hope when he gets a letter from a man who loved the feel of death under his Mercedes wheels. Brady Hartsfield wants that rush again, but this time he's going big, with an attack that would take down thousands. Unless Hodges and 2 unusual allies he picks up along the way can throw a wrench in Hartsfield's diabolical plans. So I think it's really interesting that we already know who the killer is. A lot of times in murder mysteries, you never know. It's always a question of who actually did it. And then there's red herrings along the way until the very end. So I think that brings an interesting twist to it. Also, why are the allies unusual? I'm curious if Hodges was on the case when the initial crime happened. Does he get back on? Like, does he come out of retirement because of this? What happens? So let's get into it. It starts out with Gray Mercedes is the section. And that is basically just the backstory. It talks about this man who gets off the bus at like 11 p.m. Bus driver is like, hey, you should get points for being the first one there at least. He gets in line for the job fair. This happens in 2009. So I'm assuming because of all the layoffs that were happening from the recession in 2008. Unfortunately, he's not the first one there. There's already a line of like 20 people. He gets behind this lady and her baby. She is getting judgment looks all around simply because she brought her baby. And it's like cold and it's not raining, but it's dewy, and people are hardcore judging her, but she can't afford a babysitter. Like, she's on her own. So, and then at like 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning, the Mercedes comes up, crashes into the crowd. The man that this section has been about, really, he tries to protect the mom and her baby. They're in a sleeping bag. And unfortunately, all 3 of them get unalived by the Mercedes, which is very sad. And I was mad because I was already like, I felt for them and like I liked them, and then we get like 20 pages of them, if that, and then they're like, it's rude. So now we're in the section Det Ret, which is just abbreviated for detective retired. So retired detective Bill Hodges is sitting at home on his couch in front of his TV, patting with and playing with his revolver. It's actually his father's gun, but he like puts it in his mouth to get the feel. He's like, I'm gonna need to know the feel of it anyway. And he's hardcore contemplating self-unaliving. And not even because he has like his life is just miserable. Like, there are so many things going wrong with his life. There's nothing to it. He is divorced. His grown child is out of state, doesn't really visit him. He feels like there's nothing in his life. All he does is watch TV, and it's really just out of boredom that he's contemplating this. Also, there's this line where he says he likes revolvers because they never jam. And it felt like such a pointed line, so I'm wondering if the revolver comes into play later on in the story, what happens, all of that. So the Mercedes killer leaves a note for Hodges, and it basically just says, I loved the feeling of having all those bodies under the Mercedes. Can't believe you guys didn't catch me. It's very taunting and gross. Like, he's like, whenever I think about it, I pleasure myself. It's nasty. And then he's taunting Hodges and saying, I know the self-unaliving rate for retired cops is super high. I hope you're not contemplating that. So rude. And he also claims that he has no urge to kill again. He's like, that one time was more than enough for me, blah, blah, blah. And he also tells Hodges, you can communicate with me at this website under the blue umbrella, and I even gave you a username. Well, Hodges thinks that the note was meant to entice him to self-unaliving, but I think it was to save his life. Like, I think the Mercedes killer wants him alive and wants to unalive Hodges himself. And then we meet Brady. And Brady Hartsfield, who is the killer, and he works at an IT store, and he is very excited to hear about what Hodges will do, what he'll say under the blue umbrella, all of that. He just wants to know. He's so excited. And then we also find out that he unalived his little brother when he was a kid at the mom's encouragement. The mom is massive drunk. But yeah, so that's crazy. Like, his first time of unaliving someone else was when he was a kid, and his mom encouraged it. That's just wrong. So Hodges calls his old partner, Pete Huntley, for lunch, and Pete knows that he wants to talk about old cases. So the only two notable cases, there's 4 total, but the 2 notable ones are Donald Davies, who they know unalived his wife, and then he's on the news being like, my poor wife, somebody please help me find her, because the body isn't there. And the Mercedes killer. Hodges thinks that they made a mistake, that they overlooked something with the lady whose Mercedes got stolen and was used for that. He is asking Pete if he ever thought about it, if he thinks that her testimony could have been true. Pete's like, no, we did right. We find out that the lady, her name is Olivia Trelawney. She unalived herself. And he's like, that act just proved that she was guilty, that she knew that she was wrong. They think that she left the key in the ignition, and that the Mercedes killer was just like, oh, there it is. Was able to get in, no problems, and that's that. Hodges is very uncertain that that's what actually happened, and he wants to look more into it. Then Pete leaves. There's been a break in the Donald Davies case, and Hodges ends up staying at the restaurant a little bit too long. The waiters and waitresses are all worried about him. He is older, and he's also overweight. He's like, no, I'm fine. He walks outside, goes to his car, notices 3 bullies harassing this, kid, and he beats them up. It's crazy. And he's, so excited. He's, on cloud 9. Not just because he beat up bullies, but, he feels far more energized right now than he has since he's been retired. That one letter, gave him a reason to live again. Now he's, on the case. So, we also find out that Brady is not only an IT specialist at a, retail store, but he's also the ice cream man. He drives into Hodges' neighborhood in the ice cream truck, and that's just plain wrong. Oh my god. What? Can't be a killer and be also the ice cream man. That's rude. So, next section is Under the Blue Umbrella. And Brady continues to serve ice cream to all the kids, thinking about, oh, it'd be so easy to poison all the ice cream, but it'd be super easy to trace back to me, so I shouldn't. And he serves Jerome, who is Hodges' neighbor. He's a sweet kid. He's 17 years old, and he's really smart. He cuts Hodges' lawn for him, but he also helps him with all the computer stuff. Like, he's going to make it into an Ivy League. He's a really smart kid. And Brady also serves the little sister, Jerome's little sister, Barbara. And the dog is also with him. The dog's name is Odell. Very sweet. Hodges is now curious if Olivia Trelawney, if she got a letter from Brady as well. So obviously he can't ask her because of the self-unaliving, but the sister is in town to deal with everything. So Hodges goes to her and is like, hey, like he's just determined to find out. So he's going to go visit her. Hodges also asked Jerome to look into that website under the blue umbrella and just make sure it's nothing hinky. It ends up just being kind of like Snapchat, where all your messages delete, meets like Messenger, where you can just message somebody. So, yeah. So, it ends up not being anything hinky, but Hodges is just so, like, technology incompetent that he asked Jerome just to look into it, make sure it's nothing bad, that no viruses are going to come into his computer, it's not going to steal anything from him. And then Brady goes home, and we find out his mom and him are in this, like, weird kind of, like, lover-esque relationship. It's disgusting. Also, we get a full look of her being a massive drunk. It's just their entire relationship and everything is just gross, and I hate it. And we also learn that he does have an urge to unalive a lot of people again. Like, so, which obviously... He wants to do it by bombs, and he even has an unaliving vest. Jesus. Oh my god. So Hodges goes to Olivia Trelawney's place to meet the sister. Her name's Jamie. I think it's like Janet or something, but she's referred to as Jamie throughout the book. And she is more than willing to give Hodges all of the information he could possibly want. She thinks that the police did a horrible job, that they were just harassing her. They never even thought about it. And so she just gives everything. So everything to Hodges. He looks over, and she did get the letter. He looks over the letter, and it's polar opposite from what Hodges got. The letter is stating, oh, I was just a poor innocent baby who was abused by his family and didn't really understand it. I feel so much guilt over all of that. Like, I can't believe I unalived all those people. How could you leave your key in the ignition? This man definitely knows how to read people and how to play his victims. But yeah, like, oh my god. So he was full on blame mode on Olivia. And just, how could you do this? It's your fault. It's my fault too, but it's your fault. And it's rude. Then the sister Janie talks about Olivia's mental state just in general, who she was, and massively OCD, like would turn around and like, oh my god, I left the stove on. Turn around and stove wasn't on, but couldn't like put that thought aside. Made him late for stuff. She was a hypochondriac. She was paranoid about things. She wasn't someone who was likely to forget that her key was in the ignition. So, when Jerome comes over to help Hodges with the computer, they also go out for ice cream, and Hodges asks about the key. Like, what could have possibly happened if the key wasn't in the ignition? He gives some fake story about it because he doesn't want Jerome involved in this. Jerome figures it out very quickly that what they're actually talking about was that event. So he's not quite sure. He says he'll think about it. And then Hodges compares the two letters, the one sent to him and the one sent to Olivia, and to find out quirks. Some of the quirks that he saw in the initial letter of like his writing style were copied in the letter to Olivia. So a lot of the quirks that Hodges noted in his letter like were red herrings, but the most notable one about his writing style is that he uses the word perk instead of the word perp both times. So I think that's kind of interesting because you find out Brady is he's like very smart. He's very good with computers. He's not a dumb person, but he doesn't know that the word is perp. He thinks it's perk. Like, it's weird. Also, did Brady not think that Hodges was going to, like, get excited about this and, like, try to be on the case? Try to find out who he is? Like, would Brady think he would just never see this letter? Like, I don't know. He's dumb, but Brady's smart, but he's also kind of dumb, too. So, Jerome looks into the website, tells him, hey, it's not hinky, it's just basically this. You have a username, though, which means somebody is waiting for you. Like, there's a fee to use his website, and by having a username means somebody paid that fee for Hodges. So he's like, be careful, bro. So Hodges is still contemplating how to write his first letter to Brady, and he writes on a notepad. Brady is so mad that he hasn't received anything. He's like, how would you not message me, like, right away? Like, he's very much like, I'm the main character. What are you doing? So Hodges types out that it was just simply a false confession. He's like, I heard a lot of false confessions in my time, but this one takes the cake. We know it's not you. Like, Brady is now even more, oh my god, he's so infuriated by all of this. And he wants to hurt Hodges. And by doing that, he wants to poison Jerome's dog. Because he knows Hodges and Jerome are, like, friends. Because when they're talking about everything, they walk past the ice cream truck. So he knows that they're friends. And he's like, I'm going to hurt Hodges by killing Jerome's dog. Like, it's so rude. Like, this poor innocent dog. Oh my god. So now the next section is poison bait. So Brady goes to buy poison online for the dog. And he starts worrying that by doing that, it'll make Hodges actually go to the police and do everything for that. But he wants to hurt Hodges is his main goal. He messages Hodges back and is taunting him, basically being like, he's just being rude. It's annoying. He writes out a message that he'll eventually send to Brady, but he hasn't sent it yet. He wants to, like, make Brady sweat. He then goes to, like, patrol the neighborhood, and he, like, knocks on doors. He says, hey, there's been some break-ins. I just want to see if you've noticed any, like, unusual cars. And 2 people note the ice cream truck. One, she's kind of crazy. She's like, oh my god, aliens and lizard people and stuff. And so he just is like, ugh. She's like, do they even look into the ice cream truck men? And so Hodges is like, okay, lady. And then another guy is like, oh, like, no unusual cars. Like, the only one that's I've seen driving around that's not, like, from here is the ice cream truck. But that's normal. And, oh my god, I'm so frustrated. Because if she had just listened, so many things would have happened so much quicker. So Hodges makes a deal with Janie, the woman's sister, to go visit the mom. Olivia was taking care of her sick mom when she unalived herself. And so Hodges wants to know if the mom has any insight into more info into why Olivia unalived herself. And we find out that in the middle of the night, like, they were being haunted by the ghost of a baby crying and a mother screaming, how could you do this to us? The mom and Olivia thought it was the ghosts of these people who had died because of the Mercedes. And Jesus, Brady, like, he goes hard to convince someone to, like, unalive themselves. And, like, that's so traumatic. Like, I know she didn't show any, like, remorse or any, like, concern over the victims of him, but still, oh my god. Like, that's just wrong. And Brady's being very thrown off his game because Hodges is just not communicating with him. He's not communicating with Brady in the manner that Brady wants him to. He's taking his time. He's really contemplating things. He is trying to flip the script so is in charge instead of Brady, like what he assumed. He is just not going how Brady planned. And then Hodges ends up kissing Janie, and she kisses him back, and then they have sex, and I'm like, she's described as being like pretty young. She's 44 and he's 62. So it's not bad. Like 18 years is kind of a lot, but there are worse age differences, and they're both adults. But I was just like, oh, like, isn't he like really old for you? But it's not that bad. We find out how old they are after that interaction. So Brady drives by the apartment. He likes seeing old haunts, and he sees Hodges' car, and that throws him so much for a loop. He is mad because things just aren't going how he wanted them to, and yeah. So Hodges finally opens up to Janie and tells him he has a letter too. He lets her see it, and he tells her that she needs to be careful, look out for herself, and he also tells her his plans and what he wants to do. Hodges then sends a message to Brady saying that anybody could have figured it out, and that anybody could have figured out, like, that he used bleach and how he covered up his tracks at the crime scene, and that actually Donald Davies is the actual Mercedes killer, because he has now been arrested for the unaliving of his wife. And Brady's mad. Like, oh my god, he's big mad. And he sends a message that's just quick, impulsive. He's giving out too much information. Like, he is so mad that Hodges thinks somebody else is responsible for his work. And he's definitely going to start making mistakes. Like, he's so mad that he's at the point where he'll start making mistakes because of how mad he is. But, well, before those mistakes get him caught, is he going to take more lives? Like, is he going to take the dog's life? Like, what is going to happen? Hodges leaves Janie after sending a message to Jerome. He needs more help. He needs more information. Hodges sends another message to Brady, and Brady reads it. It's just a bunch of lies, and it's meant to rile Brady up, which it does. This boy is, like, he really doesn't think that the cop knows how to rile a suspect up. Like, come on. Jerome finally tells Jerome tells Hodges what happened, that there was a peak, like, it picks up car alarms or the code of like a car beep, like when you lock it, and then you can use that to unlock the car. He's like, the tech guys should have known that. Did you not talk to them? Hodges now feels like he was incompetent. Again, I don't even know why they were going so hard on Olivia. I felt like her leaving her keen ignition or not is kind of a moot point. She wasn't the one who unalived all those people. But yeah, Barbara takes Odell and her friends to like the store, and I'm worried because that is how Brady wants to poison Odell, the dog. Is when she takes him to the store, she has to leave him outside because no dogs are allowed inside the store. He's gonna toss poison hamburger meat up there, the dog will eat it and then die. So luckily they all come back, they're all okay, but geez. Brady is so mad by all these messages that Hodges is sending him that he goes to like Home Depot and buys the poison that he wants because it's like poison for like weeds and stuff. Even though he already has some coming, and he has now a plan. The plan is to poison the duck, unalive Hodges, and then a big gesture, which ends up being bombing a concert that is going to be in town. It's like a boy band, like kind of like One Direction or something when they were in their height of like popularity. Like they're coming, so all little like teenage girls, tween girls, they're going, they're going to be all excited. He wants to make a big impact, and that's what he plans to do. Brady, he then mixes the poison and the hamburger meat, and he stashes it in his little mini fridge that's in the basement. So it's ready for him when he's ready to enact this plan, which isn't for, I think, another day or two. Janie's mother dies, and Hodges is there for her, and he's like consoling her. He's helping her make arrangements and plans with the funeral home and everything. And then we go back to Brady, and he comes home and finds his mom's gut like super bloated, like almost like she's pregnant. She ate the poisoned meat. And she dies in their living room. Brady knows he can't call 911. He can't call for help because he was the one who put the poison in the meat. And any little thing could get him caught at this point. And so he just goes back down to his basement and listens to his mom die. Once she is dead, he tucks her into bed. She is like puking. So her pajama top has like vomit on it. But he just tucks her in. And he blames Hodges for everything. At this point, he just wants to enact the most amount of pain on Hodges. And now we are in the section Call for the Dead. So Hodges has dinner with Jerome and Janie. He has them meet each other. They get along fabulously. And he gives them copies of all his files. It has both letters. It has everything that he thinks he knows about the Mercedes killer. Hodges then agrees to attend the viewing and the funeral for Janie, just in case Hodges ends up showing, just in case Brady ends up showing his face, but also just to be there for Janie. We also find out that Jerome's mother and little sister are going to this concert. And Jesus. So now we're 3 days away from the concert. The concert's on Thursday. Also, Janie's aunt, uncle, and cousin are all coming into town. The aunt and uncle are just money hungry. They're grubby. I don't like them. They're not caring people. They don't really care that their sister just died. And now we learn Brady's past with his little brother and how he unalived him. So the little brother's name is Frankie. He's 5 years younger than Brady, and he choked on an apple slice. It got stuck. He stopped breathing for several minutes. He was in a coma, and when he got out of the coma, he was brain damaged. And life just became hard. Brady's dad had died like a year prior to this, I think, and they got a settlement from it because he died on his job during his job. But his mom has to stop working because she has to take care of Frankie, and the babysitter that they were using before Frankie got brain damage just can't take care of him right now. And someone who is specialized in taking care of that, she costs more than what the mom was taking home. So it just wasn't worth it. So they're living off of their savings. They're living off of the settlement. And then one day, Frankie's playing with his little toy truck, and the basement door is open, and the truck rolls to the edge, to like the very opening of the basement door, and the mom comes over. Brady thinks the mom's gonna pick up the toy, close the door. She kicks the toy down the stairs, and she's like, oops. She's like, I hate hearing him play with that toy. Like, during this entire time, both mom and brother are like, have a love-hate relationship with Frankie. They love him because he's Frankie and he's their little brother or their son, but he just makes life hard. It's not his fault. Like, he just choked on an apple slice and now has brain damage, but life isn't how it used to be, and that's hard for them. So when Brady comes over and the toy's already down the stairs, he looks at his mom, his mother nods, and so Brady kicks Frankie down the stairs. His neck breaks, but he's not quite dead. They go downstairs. Brady's like, oh my God, like, what do we do? She's like, go up and get me a cushion from a pillow from the couch. And then she suffocates her child. Frankie's last word before he gets unalived by his brother and mother is Brady. And that is the story of Frankie's little brother. Brady's little brother, Frankie. So during this entire time, the weird relationship between Brady and his mom is still happening. She's like, oh, thank God it wasn't you, Brady. I don't know what I would have done if it was you. And then after it's all over, and during this time as well, like when the mom, before Frankie gets brain damage, the mom ends up going out on a date, and Brady's like, that should be me. Like, he's literally like 8 years old, and he's like, that should be me. And then after all this happens, she never dates again. She's like, I don't need a husband. I have you, Brady. It's gross. Mom has always been crazy. And Brady probably has too, but, like, he did not grow up in a conducive environment to, like, have a normal life. Then we're back. So Brady sees that Janie and Olivia's mom has passed. He's so happy. He thinks it's fun to wipe out an entire family. He's like, oh my God, that's so cool. And then Brady spots Hodges and Janie together, and he's shook. Like, he is like, how could they? Like, he's like, there's no way that they're like, Hodges is so old, like, and even if it is, it's a pity one. Like, he is, like, losing his mind. He's so much so that he calls out of his IT job at work, and also the ice cream one. Hodges calls, and he calls the police department, and he asks about old car burglaries, like, going back before the first incident. And there are several, and he knows that they're all from Brady. He just knows it. There's no proof, but he knows. And Brady is then able to catch Hodges' car code with his device, because Hodges went to Janie's house to pick her up for, I think it was the viewing. So now that Brady has the car code, he can get into Hodges' car whenever he wants. Then he goes to scope out the concert venue, but he's not allowed inside because they're setting up for this big band. And he's like, okay. And security's too tight. If he makes a fuss, he'll be remembered. Brady's whole thing is that he doesn't like to be remembered. It's partly why he's the ice cream man. No one actually looks at the ice cream man. They just look at the ice cream. He would still like to kill Hodges first, but that's not necessary to him anymore. And he only has a couple of days. Thankfully, he doesn't seem to even think about Odell anymore, think about that incident. He's just mad that his mother died because of Hodges, according to him. Brady is now planning to break into Hodges' car and plant a bomb so that he can just kill Hodges. He plans it, he does it, after the funeral, I think it's this time around. Hodges ends up not taking his car. He ends up riding with the cousin Holly, because Holly is really taking a liking to Hodges, not in like a romantic sense, but he makes her feel calm. I think she's like, don't quote me on this because I have no experience with this, but I think she's supposed to be like autistic coded. She has a lot of tics, a lot of quirks. She stims. The mother, she's also like 44 years old, Holly. So this is taking place in like 2010. So she was born in like the 1970s, 1960s. And so that probably wasn't even really a thing. It's also harder to diagnose in women, I know, autism. But the mother is basically just like, there's something wrong with her. And so she's very overprotective. Aunt Charlotte, the one who's like all money grubby. Holly doesn't really ever take a liking to anyone, especially new in their life, but she took a liking to Hodges. So he ends up riding with them. Janie drives Hodges' car, and she ends up getting killed from the bomb, which is so sad. Like, I liked Janie a lot. I thought she was really good for Hodges. She was never planning on staying in town, but she just helped Hodges. Hodges helped her, and I am so sad that this happened. Like, this poor woman, she was so innocent. She just wanted to find out what happened to her sister. But Brady blew the bomb because he assumed it was Hodges in the car. She was wearing a hat she had gifted Hodges, and he just saw the hat and blew it. So Hodges then calls Jerome immediately after that, and he's like, hey, you know nothing. You know nothing about this entire scenario. This is what happened. Like, and he also tells Jerome to post another blue umbrella in like an hour so that Brady knows that he's failed in killing Hodges. Hodges is questioned by his old partner and now the old partner's new partner. And he tells a very watered down story of him and Janie and how they were. And he also doesn't say anything about Brady and the Mercedes killer or the letter. He plucks a name out of his hat of old suspects of who could have done it. Pete knows that Hodges is holding something back. He's like, hey, I know you and I'm a good cop. Like, I know you're holding something back. But he doesn't push it too hard. So Jerome ends up going to Janie's house. Holly sort of lets him in. Jerome has all the codes and everything, and Holly's like nervous. But Jerome wants to look at the computer and find the recordings. Holly actually ends up helping him. And she's so good with computers. Like, massively smart. Like, Jerome is good with computers. Holly is fucking amazing. She knows all the ins and outs. It's basically just what she does because she comes from a rich family. The mom coddles her, doesn't want her to have a job or have a life, so what she does is be on the computer. And she's so good with it. Hodges realizes that the way that Brady could have had access to it is that he's working for some kind of IT company. And now we are on the section Kisses on the Midday. So Hodges wakes up early and he is on a mission. Pete calls and says he wants an interview. Hodges is like, okay, whatever. But like he's on a mission to find Brady. This is now Thursday, so it's the day of the concert. Jerome calls offering to like drive him around because, you know, his car got bombed. And Charlotte, Jane's aunt, she calls and asks about money, and she's overall being awful, and we hate her. Hodges then has Jerome call for information. He has him call Olivia's apartment complex for information about the IT companies that worked there, because Jerome, while 17 and definitely looks 17, he has like a very deep voice, so he sounds older over the phone. And so they get the name of the IT company that came and figure out it's 3 names that it could be, which is Brady, obviously, and then 2 of his boss, and then his coworker. Hodges is ready to go. He has an ID, like an old ID, that says that he's a cop and doesn't have the word retired on it. So, Jesus. Like, I know, so this is his trilogy. This is the, Mr. Mercedes is the first in the Bill Hodges trilogy. But Jesus, like, he is going to get in so much fucking trouble. Like, that is illegal, because now he's impersonating an officer. While the officer is him, he's impersonating him when he was not retired. Oh my god. Like, he will be very lucky to not end up in jail after all this. And he knows that. He is fully ready and accepting to be in jail. But so, this whole time, Brady is preparing for the concert. He bought a wheelchair. He's in a motel room. He left his house. He bought a wheelchair to put all the bombs in, which, like, this is what I mean. Like, he's so smart. And it's so frustrating. Like, because there are no backpacks allowed at the venue. So, and it's July. He can't wear a vest because that'll just make him stick out. He's already going to stick out because he's like a 30-year-old man with no child. He is now impersonating like being disabled so that he can get in with a wheelchair and put the bombs in it. It's so rude. Oh my god. Okay. So Hodges and Jerome then drive to the IT place and they find Holly. And she actually drove Olivia's Mercedes because Olivia got it back from the dealership. It was all fixed up. She never sold it. And Holly drove it. Like, so, my god. Like, there are probably ghosts in that car. It's probably haunted. But she drove it. And Holly wants to help. She's determined to help to find out who this killer is because she just saw her cousin get blown up. And so she will help. And she's not taking no for an answer. So Hodges, Jerome, and Holly, they all figure out who it is, kind of separately. Jerome figures it out because he remembers the ice cream man, and the ice cream man is Brady. He's like, oh my god, that's how he's been, like, stalking you. And then Hodges goes in, and he meets the boss, and then Brady's co-worker. Brady's not there. He called in sick. So they all figure it out separately. They go to his house, and then they find the mom dead in her bed. And they try to open the computers and Brady in the basement, but they don't have the passwords. Brady uses like a voice command. I think it's, what is it? It's like chaos to turn on the lights and darkness to turn on the computers or something like that. And it's like voice commands. I think he can do it like manually as well, but he likes it that it's voice commands. So Hodges knows that he has to call it in. They don't have enough time. So So they go to call it in, and Pete literally has no time for him because there's this big ATF bust, and the cops, even though it's an ATF bus, the normal police have a, like, say in everything because 2 patrol officers helped with the bust. Unknowingly, but they helped. And so Holly ends up calling her mom because she's been avoiding the mom's calls all day. And she actually stands up for herself. She becomes more assertive, and I'm so proud of her because she's just like, she only mumbled. Hodges didn't even understand what she was saying half the time. But now she's actually, like, stating her opinions and stating what she wants, and I'm so proud of her! So, Brady has his last meal, and he's just preparing to die. He's not expecting to get out of this bombing alive. Obviously, it's a wheelchair, but he's fully prepared. He doesn't think anything will happen. He knows there'll be no big mother-son reunion, but he's just ready for nothingness. And also, he sent a letter to a note under the blue umbrella stating, like, have a good weekend, so to make Hodges think that his big plan won't happen until a weekend, even though it's happening tonight, which is Thursday. So Hodges and his team work. Holly tries to crack the mom's laptop password because she thinks that'll help them crack Brady's. And Jerome, he looks at different events that are happening over the weekend. Hodges calls the concert venue, talks to an old cop buddy of his, and he tells him to keep an eye out for Brady. He says that he is a child lover. He doesn't want to say anything that could be too bad or say what could actually happen in case he's wrong, but he wants just them to keep a lookout for him. They don't think that he'll strike at the concert, so Jerome doesn't call his mom and sister and tell them to stay home. He just lets them go. They finally actually cracked the code because the mom had notes about the words to use, and Jerome was able to kind of mimic Brady's voice enough that the voice recognition worked. So they crack it, and during this time, Brady makes final preparations to the wheelchair, and he makes his way to the venue. And Jerome and his mom are there, Jerome's not there. Jerome's mom and little sister are there, along with the sister's friends. They're all having fun. The mom is remembering her times being obsessed with a teen band. It's adorable. They're all being very sweet. Brady ends up making it past security because he, like, shaved his head. He's in a wheelchair. Even though they're looking out for him, he still makes it through. And then Jerome and Holly finally figure out that's the concert, and they all race there. Jerome's freaking out. He's the one driving. They're speeding there. They're trying to call somebody. They're trying to call the concert venue, the old cop buddy. Jerome's trying to call his mom and sister. Like, they're trying to just find somebody to, like, get everyone out of there. They make it to the venue. And Hodges, he figures out how he was able to get past security, how he was able to, like, be okay, that not be looked at funny by being a 30-year-old man with no child. He knows he's in handicap. He says that Holly needs to be the one to take him down because Brady absolutely knows what Hodges looks like. They can't risk it with him. Also, Hodges is having a heart attack. That's fun. And they can't risk Jerome because Brady served ice cream to Jerome. So it has to be Holly. She's still, like, nervous. Like, while she's being more assertive, she's like, bruh, I can't do this. What are you talking about? But it has to be her. Holly ends up stopping him. Yay. All the other people around are like, what the hell? Like, Barbara, the little sister, ends up still looking at the handicap area because she noted Brady earlier. And she wants to make sure he's having fun. She sees Holly take him down, and she sees her brother. So Barbara and her mom and going to Jerome, they're like, and he's like, get out of here right now. Like, so but Holly and Jerome are able to take Brady down. Without him knowing and being able to set off the explosives, they're able to disarm it. Everyone lives. there's a proclamation from the mayor, and Holly and Jerome are heroes, which they are. There's no mention of Hodges, though, probably because he was the ex-cop, the adult, like, Holly's an adult, but the, like, adult who knew what should have happened. And so there's no mention of him, but now we're in the final section, which is called Blue Mercedes. Holly is still driving that Mercedes, but she painted it, and she says there's no ghosts anymore. She thought about selling it, but she decided not to. Paint job seemed to get rid of the ghosts for her. And I'm super happy. So Hodges has no charges against him. He will probably never become a private investigator or anything like that, which is kind of unfortunate because, dude, he's a bomb. He was a bomb cop. But he also has a pacemaker because of the heart attack. But he's alive. He's happy. Like, genuinely happy. So that's exciting. Jerome and his family, they're all alive and happy. They've accepted Holly. And so she's kind of part of the family. And the best news of all, Holly is on her own. She's not being controlled by her crazy mom anymore. She's living on her own. And she's driving around. She's kind of family with Jerome and his family now. Like, Barbara's calling her Aunt Holly. It's super cute. And yeah, I'm so proud of her. She's going to see a therapist and work through all of her past trauma and issues. I'm so happy. And finally, this book ends 17 months later at a hospital where Brady wakes up. Holly, like, beat him unconscious, like, brain damage unconscious. But Brady wakes up, and he claims he has a headache, and he wants his mommy. And that's the story of Mr. Mercedes, the first in the Bill Hodges trilogy. So, crazy, very sad at times, like, every time. The beginning, middle, and crazy things. Very good. I love Stephen King. He is there's a reason why he's as popular as he is. So, yeah. That's the story of it. Tell me, please, if you guys liked the video, please leave a like. Subscribe if you haven't yet. I'd appreciate that. And please leave comments. Tell me what you thought of the story. If you read it, tell me if you thought similar things. Tell me what you assumed was going to happen, if you were right, if you were wrong. I'd love to hear from all of you. I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.